Hello and welcome to Talk from Superheroes. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Ivamy.
And I'm Diana McCullum.
And you're listening to Talk from Superheroes, where every week we discuss a piece of heroic television or film. And this week on the podcast, we are kind of revving our engines, vroom vroom.
You know how we talk about fantasy movies with the little engine rev.
Rev, vroom vroom.
Vroom vroom, straight into the Stardust.
For next week. We're revving our engines for next week is what I mean. We're warming up the engines. We're revving into next week when we'll be covering Argylle, the work of director Matthew Vaughn. So this week we are dipping back into some earlier Matthew Vaughn with Stardust.
I'm sorry, I ruined the surprise.
Vroom vroom.
I vroomed right past your point.
Vroom vroom.
And then you had to just kind of turn the corner at a good pace and be like, here's the point. I was vroom vroom.
Vroom vroom.
Vroom vroom. I don't think Argylle's even really about cars, but here we go. It's a train, I think.
I'm doing a rev your engine metaphor.
Okay, we're revving our engines for Argylle.
In terms getting warmed up is what I mean. The colloquial expression of revving one's engine. That's where I'm at.
It's tracking now.
There's at least going to be one vehicle in Argylle. We'll see how it plays out.
There's got to be at least one.
If there's not a single car in Argylle, I swear to God, you'd knock me over with a feather. I will be shook.
It's going to be just Lord of the Rings 4, all walking, all the time, or you take an eagle.
Vroom, vroom, vroom.
You don't vroom an eagle.
Vroom, vroom.
There's no engine.
I would love to see someone ride an eagle and yell vroom, vroom.
I mean, it'd be interesting.
That would be something. But this week we are talking about Stardust. Before we get into today's episode, we want to thank our sponsor of today's episode. We want to thank our friends over at tpublic.com.
At tpublic.com, you're going to find your next favorite t-shirt or tank top or phone case or lots of other things that you can get a design on made by an indie artist. So a design you're not going to find anywhere else.
And customizable as well. So that's going to be the other nice special you thing about it is that you'll pick the cut and but you can also pick like fabric, you can pick the color, you can change things up quite a bit on it, which is a very nice way to just make it special and just make it you.
Really make it you. Even like things like when Andrew says the cut, like it's like you can get a different like neckline. I get a lot of the V-neck tees. I love a little extra space on my neck. Don't like being stifled.
Yeah. You also like the baseball cuts.
I do like the
baseball cut tee as well.
Yeah, I got some Winter Soldier baseball cuts.
Making a comeback, the Ringer tee, making a comeback. There's some variety in there.
What was old is new again, and what is new again at tpublic.com.
And it's all special at tpublic.com with cool designs submitted by independent artists who are getting commissions for their work. One shirt that I'm liking this week is called "Oh No, Blade," and it's Dracula just being murdered by Blade, and it is a real Oldman Bram Stoker Dracula with just a giant sword through his chest and a speech balloon that says "Oh no, Blade," and it's just a whisper of Blade peeking out from behind the shoulder of Dracula. So Dracula just getting murked, and a very comical art style. A Bram Stoker's Dracula fighting a Wesley Snipes Blade is it's fun.
It's very, very fun. The shirt itself is fun, and if I bought this shirt, I would definitely have to tell everyone, like, want to know what this shirt's called? It's called "Oh No, It's Blade."
Oh no, Blade. And it says "Oh no, Blade" on it.
Oh no, Blade. It all works. It's all good. My shirt this week, I picked a Good Omen shirt because Stardust is a Neil Gaiman property.
Vroom vroom.
Vroom vroom. I'm revving my engines for Neil Gaiman now. Good Omens. So it's We're on Our Own Side. It's Crowley and Aziraphale pre-breakup by RZA Rodell, and it's just this like really like lovely like it's really stylized lettering with the angel and the demon. And there's they're lovely. RZA Rodell has really incredible designs.
Really nice.
It's an artist in our store.
That's an artist, and you can also when you click on a shirt, check out the artist as well, which is up top. But you can find those shirts and make your way to the artist. Just make your way around our store where you'll find the ones that we just mentioned, other ones that we own and recommend and just think are cool at our storefront, which is over at tpublic.fromsuperheroes.com. And when you shop through that link, not only do you support the artist who designed the shirt, but you also directly support this podcast. So head on over to tpublic.fromsuperheroes.com. That is teepublic.fromsuperheroes.com. And now, let's get into Stardust.
Vroom vroom, everybody.
Vroom vroom. All right, we have seen Stardust. You for the first time.
Me for the first time. You for the, what's the number of times for you now?
It's an upside down question mark, baby. Because I don't know. I know it's not my first because I watched this once, forgot I saw it, then like 7 to 8 years later went to watch it for what I thought was the first time. And I'm going to say about like 40 minutes in was like, oh, I've seen this before.
Okay.
And then tonight going in, having a feeling of that memory of remembering watching it, but still with no real memory of this movie.
Wow, so kind of a third viewing.
Kind of a third first viewing, I'm going to say.
Nothing sticking to the wall.
Not a lot
Stardust.
sticking in. Not a lot sticking. But what about you, Diana? First time, first go, first pass. Did any of it stick? Did you like it?
I guess I liked it fine. I think my like of this movie is kind of a like, whatever. Like it's not great. Parts of it are quite bad, and some elements of it are quite bad. It's a lot of elements that just don't go together. It doesn't know what it is. It doesn't know its tone. It doesn't know what audience it's for. But like, there's some fun performances, and there's some things I like in there that are really, really fun. But overall, it's like, yeah, that's fine. Whatever. I don't care if you watch it or don't watch it. I can't give you a hard yes or no on Stardust. The funnest part of it might be watching it now in the 2024 and being like, whoa, Charlie Cox, whoa, Henry Cavill. It might be a lot of just like, I know who these guys are, kind of fun for you. So yeah, like, it's fine. It's not great. I'm going to give it my first ever whatever.
Wow, that's a new rating.
New rating of just, yeah, whatever.
A new rating just dropped, and
for
it's whatever.
Stardust. But, you know, I think that's a good one for a movie you've seen 3 times and can't recall for the life of you. So, Andrew, how did you feel about Stardust on your third viewing?
On my third viewing, I feel pretty similar, I think, which is that it doesn't stick to your ribs. It's kind of a forgettable movie. It does have some strengths. It has a couple of like really strong positives about it, and some interesting elements as well, and some stuff that they try, and also just some kind of interesting journeys into, you know, Matthew Vaughn prior to this had done Layer Cake, which kind of had like independent success, but this was his first major studio directorial debut with like a big international release. And it's an interesting kind of piece of like, oh, you can see that the concessions made for a director to be given their first chance, things that studios decided, things that don't quite work here and there. So it's just kind of an interesting piece of like looking at and understanding how films get made. So there's like some interesting elements here to see the start of someone's career and to understand certain things about filmmaking. And then the film itself, some things do work here, but for the most part, I'm gonna say it's contradictory in that it is both too much and too little. There's way too much going on, but not enough of it is anything that this movie needs. And that really kind of bogs it down. But there are definitely moments of brilliance here. I'm kind of conflicted on this one, where it's not even a passive watch. If you were doing something else, I feel like this would lose all shape.
Oh yeah, like if you're doing something else, you can't follow what's happening at all with no joy.
Yes, if we were using laundry movie is the term we often use on the podcast, where it's like if you're folding laundry or something, this is good to have on in the background. This movie needs your full attention. It's not a laundry movie. It needs your full attention, but I can't quite say it deserves your full attention, but it's on the cusp.
I think it might deserve your full attention if it was like an hour 45.
Yeah.
It breaks too.
I think this deserves your attention if you are interested in the career of any of the wonderful people who are in this movie. It's kind of like an interesting what for a bit of everyone, whether it's the director Matthew Vaughn or Charlie Cox, Robert De Niro, Claire Danes, Michelle Pfeiffer, Mark Strong. There are some phenomenal performers in here who are doing intriguing departures or introductions in their career. So if you're interested in the career of anyone who's in this movie, I think it's kind of an interesting piece.
You spent 5 minutes selling this movie as just a way to kind of understand the industry of film and nothing about the plot or anything that's just like enjoyable about a movie on its own.
There's one good action scene.
There is one good action scene.
There's one good action scene.
I was definitely going to talk about that a little later.
We'll unpack more of that later.
I do want to stick to the ribs about it ofness. There's got to be an easier way to say that. Unstickiness of this film.
Yes. Yeah.
Slipperiness of it. I'm figuring out words in real time.
Let's call it the non-stick.
The non-stick.
The non-stick like a frying pan.
The non-stick like a frying pan. I agree it washes over you because nothing has a big impact. Nothing has a big laugh. Nothing has a big emotional moment. And then on top of that, in one of the semi-lead roles, they have cast Sienna Miller, who is the most beautiful, forgettable woman that's ever lived. And I love that both of us know how forgettable this woman is. And it's so weird.
I've made a note of how forgettable this person is, which is kind of weird, where it's like, it is like she is classically beautiful.
Oh, she's absolutely gorgeous.
But in the sense of like, if you showed me a photo of a blue sky, and I mean just the sky, no cloud, no landmarks, no earth, no sun, just a photo of blue. And you were like, is this nice? And I'm like, yeah, that's a nice blue sky. And then you showed me another photo of blue sky later, and you're like, is this the same one? I'm like, I cannot. Sienna Miller could have stabbed you tonight, and I would never be able to pick her out of a police lineup.
I could pick her out of a police lineup because she's the only face with so few imperfections that you can't remember her face.
Yes, there's no distinguishing characteristics.
None whatsoever. She's the silence from Doctor Who. The second you're not looking at her, you forget what she looks like.
Yeah.
She just turns into just a forgettable picture of beauty, which explains why Charlie Cox goes to another land and he's like, who's Victoria?
I have a memory of someone beautiful, but I can't picture them when I close my eyes.
And we don't have photographs in this world.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. She's like Leonardo da Vinci freehand drawing a perfect circle and everyone being like, whoa, but also like, what? It's too symmetrical. What are we doing here?
I have to say how forgettable this woman is mid through the movie. We took a break to clean up our dishes and I was like, who do you think that other star was? And Andrew went through the IMDb and was like, oh, it was Sienna Miller. I'm like, she's already had so many lines in this movie.
And I go, oh, that was her? The amount of times this has happened.
20 minutes of lines.
She's too beautiful with no imperfection. She does not retain.
Like, in a movie, if someone is like, oh, I'm so beautiful, my life is so hard, I'm like, it actually might be for Sienna Miller. To get noticed, to get cast, to get any kind of character interest. Yeah. Because she's got no qualities.
There's no qualities.
Not a single quality.
Yeah.
She's the weirdest woman.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard to describe that kind of logical fallacy that is
she's perfect.
The absolute the forgettableness of perfection.
Yeah. You know how in like there'll be like movies and TV shows where you're like, I wish for the perfect life, and then your wife sucks because she's perfect?
Right.
That's Sienna Miller.
Like a Stepford wife type scenario.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, I get that.
So I'm baffled by this woman.
Yes.
She intrigues me in the most disinteresting way of all time.
Yeah. There's a lot to take in there.
So I just really wanted right off the bat to be like, because I thought I was going to forget about her if I didn't talk about her right away.
You are like the character in Memento getting a tattoo that just says Sienna Miller across your arm.
I'm more like Pimento on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and I get one that says "Get toilet paper."
Okay, just small.
Talk about Sienna Miller.
Small reminders.
Small reminders.
Oh, yeah, and when he had Finding Dory disease. Great episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. But there are other people other than Sienna Miller in this film, a stacked and varying cast.
I mean, a cast that got more stacked with time, because Charlie Cox and Henry Cavill were no one at the time. So, like, over time, even more stacked. Because at the time, Robert De Niro, Michelle Pfeiffer, obviously huge stars, even narrated by Ian McKellen.
Yeah.
Like, huge cast.
Huge.
But then as time goes on, you're like, oh, Daredevil's in this, and Superman's in this. And
a lot of great young stars are also in this, as well as old stars. And I feel like that's part of the problem with this movie. And this kind of goes to take like the quick moment to talk about what I was mentioning earlier of like the industry of it all, is that this is Matthew Vaughn's like big studio picture, international release based on a book series. It's his big step onto the world stage after the indie success that was Layer Cake and having worked on some Guy Ritchie films in different production roles. But this was his big thing, and for the studio to make this of his, as is true of a lot of like first-time directors, first-time writers, they're like, who's the star that you have attached? And Matthew Vaughn came in swinging big and was like, I got Robert De Niro and Michelle Pfeiffer on this. And I have them. And the studio was like, yes, we will make this movie then because you have those cool stars attached. Do you have them at the same time that you have any other actors? No. And the answer is no. None of the celebrities interact with one another. They don't have scenes with one another. Even in like I was reading some trivia that said like that the in scene was very difficult because none of them were on set at the same time and they had to cheat and film them all independently. And a lot of them just weren't in that scene together. So it's like no one was available the same days. And then they have Claire, except for, Claire Danes and Charlie Cox obviously did have a lot of interaction or a relatively large amount.
They did. I actually would even say Claire Danes was pretty famous at the time. I don't know how available she even was.
Exactly. Yeah. So like there's a lot of that of like we got stars, but that also means now that like I am a first-ish time director who doesn't have a lot of power, who doesn't have a lot of authority, who's calling in a favor and spending most of my budget on a celebrity, and we're basing the whole production schedule around it, and none of it quite works, and it's not organic. And this movie probably would function better if it was just a bunch of unknowns, young up-and-comers, or people that Matthew Vaughn had full faith in that weren't the big stunt casting that sells tickets. But movies don't get made by a studio if you don't do that.
No.
So it's you feel the concessions of a young filmmaker who's like, this is my chance, and I will do the thing that helps sell tickets, even if it doesn't necessarily make for a good production schedule or a good movie.
Yeah, I will get Robert De Niro. He will be here for exactly a week. He will not appear until an hour and 10 into the movie, but he will be on the poster.
Yes.
But he will be prominently placed.
He is entirely on a green screen soundstage. We never allow Robert De Niro outside. He never has to meet a member of the public. There is no closed, like just that level of like.
We're in his basement now.
We cannot afford the security to have Robert De Niro on a human street. So just that type of stuff. It just kind of like, and that all kind of stacks up.
That all kind of stacks up. Now, I will say for the stunt casting, oh my God, Michelle Pfeiffer is incredible. She is the exact opposite of forgettably beautiful like Sienna Miller. She is memorably beautiful. Holy shit, you're so pretty, Michelle Pfeiffer.
I mean, this is always true.
This is always true, but like, I just like, you see her so infrequently these days, unless you're watching an Ant-Man, and it's just like, God.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Just perfection in the absolute real perfection way.
And I'm also going to say, owning this role in a way also.
I was going to say performance-wise, even if she is almost like, especially considering she's alone most of the time, she is nailing it. She's fun. She's got a real grasp of the character. She's really upset that she's aging. She's a little bit mean. She's a little bit cool.
There is a moment in this where I'm like, oh, Michelle Pfeiffer, you could have slipped seamlessly into the classic film Hocus Pocus.
Oh, of course.
Where I was like, oh my
yes.
God, you know how to play this like witch character. You know how to play it big. You know how to play it bawdy. You know how to play it funny. You know how to play it sincere, scary. Like, you get this.
Yeah, you know how to be vain without being like, look how sexy I am, but just like, look how into myself I am, or I want to be, because, oh no, my boobs sagged. And like, I feel like a lot of A-list female celebrities would not agree to a joke about their boobs sagging.
Oh, true too.
So I appreciate that about her. That joke was funny.
It was funny.
That was a funny joke.
That was a funny joke.
Not a lot of boob jokes are funny.
No, and in fact, this movie also has ones that aren't. So
what are the other boob jokes?
The man who's turned into a woman and never protests, and is just like, ooh, boobs.
Yeah, never says a line, just kind of looks down and touches them a little bit. Oh, and then gets to see Claire Danes' boobs.
Yeah, and it's like, ooh,
double boobs.
Double boobs. And then also When his boobs inflate, they do make a boing,
And
like a sploop.
And the buttons pop
A
up.
slide whistle as buttons pop, and it's like I want to crawl into my own ass and die. I hate this.
Yeah, it is interesting, as you said, as a piece of like cinema history to be like, oh yeah, there's some little early Matthew Vaughn in here.
There's some early sexual problematic issues in here.
Yeah, the Matthew Vaughnisms of them all. Okay, I see the Kingsman and the Kingsman especially.
Especially the King's Man.
Yeah, you gotta rein Matthew Vaughn in a little is the thing.
You gotta.
You let him completely free, you get the King's Man.
Yeah, you gotta put a lasso on this boy and make sure you do not get too much problematic stuff in this man's films. Oh my God. So yeah, because we're just getting a hint of it in here with the boob slide whistle.
With the boob slide whistle, I will say this whole movie like really suffers from not knowing what its tone is.
Yes.
Like we're like 10 minutes into this movie and it's like, oh, it's like a lighthearted fairy tale for kids, I think. But then it's like, no, they're going to go have sex and that kiss was really passionate. And then there's decapitations and like rape implications later. And I'm like, and it's like, but then also like you can't show blood. So this guy's blood is blue. And I'm like, who the fuck is this movie for?
Yeah.
Is this for kids or is this for adults?
Yeah, there are definitely some tonal problems there.
Yeah, it really is like you can feel the notes from the network.
Yeah.
You can absolutely feel them.
You can feel that Matthew Vaughn wanted to make a hornier or more violent version of this.
Did.
And the studio was like, no. And Neil Gaiman was like, split the difference. I feel like might have been the compromise.
Neil Gaiman is honestly such a hard tone to hit, though. Like, he is fairy tales for adults, and sometimes they're dark and sometimes they're lighthearted. And only in recent years, only when Neil Gaiman is show running does his own work in like Sandman and Good Omens. Like he's the only one who really grasps his own work perfectly.
Who understands
adaptation.
When it's upsetting and when it's sexy.
And what makes it powerful in that way.
Yes. Yeah. Whereas other people when they interpret his work are like, it's sexy now, right? And Neil Gaiman's like, no, actually this was supposed to be one of the violent moments. And it's like, damn it. I thought that was the sexy moment.
Fuck, I lost it.
I fucking lost it. So I feel like I agree with this.
Yeah, it's very nice in recent years that he has gotten to kind of adapt his own material because he's like, no.
I 100% agree. I 100%.
It's very difficult to do fairy tales for adults.
Even though like this is a reasonably valiant effort for the most part, I agree it is a little bit tonally all over the place, but like it is successfully doing what it tries to do. It kind of flip-flops what it tries to do, but it does it successfully each time. Like this opening fairy tale segment, I'm like, this is like Ian McKellen narrating.
Oh, well, that's a get.
Which is like, well, this is a get. This really works. Another good celebrity moment. And it's like, this really pops and it feels like a fairy tale and this quick little hit of a love story and jaunty music that kind of makes this feel like Middle Earth, even though it's just a town in England or whatever at this point. And it's like, this is fun and works. And then it switches like to the witches, and that's a completely different vibe. And then like all the brothers fighting for the kingdom is a totally different vibe. But each one of them, I'm like, this witch's castle is a totally different like color palette, music theme, different motif. And like each one of them are very distinct and successful in their own way. They don't intercut together well, but they're successful in their own rights.
Yeah, they don't feel like they're part of the same world. And I mean, London is not in the same world as the magic stuff, but even anything in the magic stuff doesn't feel like it's in the same parts of the magic world. Like at the end when Tristan ends up being king, it doesn't feel like anyone should be there because it feels like this isn't a united kingdom in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Like the witch's castle is so fleshed out and it's cool and like their whole world is built up. It's like they have all the animals because that's how they tell the future, by reading the guts. Oh, also so many animals are killed.
A lot of animal slaughter, yeah.
Very dark stuff. But you know, and then you go to the prince's castle and it's like this giant towering thing and they're very silly in a different way.
Yeah.
That doesn't match how the witches are silly, and then Tristan and the Star aren't silly at all. They think they're silly, but they're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's just like, the tone never quite matches. I can't tell if it's like, the stunt casting or if it's like parts Matthew Vaughn just liked more and worked harder on. I'm going to say Matthew Vaughn really liked the Ghost Brothers and Mark Strong.
I agree. Definitely Mark Strong. Even the Ghost Brothers, I feel like, is underutilized. And they never really talk to each other enough. Like, there's one or two funny moments. And then a lot of the times it's just kind of like, and we're here.
The Ghost Brothers, I absolutely love, and they should be their own movie.
Yeah.
I think they're so funny. I think it's a really cool idea. I think it's a lovely thing to tack on. I like how unobtrusive it is, actually. I think if they talked more, they would be too much. But I also think, like, that's a movie in itself. That's such a fun idea.
I agree.
They're all stuck the way they die.
And some hilarious comedic actors in that cast as well.
Rupert Everett is just a dead brother.
Yeah, who has like 3 lines maybe, not enough. They don't feel to be, this is what's so upsetting. I'm like, these are all great comedians, or several of them I recognize to be fantastic comedians, and no one seems to be improvising. Like this should be like a Shakespearean chorus at its stiffest, or a bunch of improvisers riffing at its silliest. And you don't get either. You get 3 lines a scene that are pre-scripted and like 7 comedic actors who I don't know if they even filmed at the same time.
And yeah, the energy is very low as well, which also I think maybe goes with like, doesn't feel like they filmed at the same time.
Yeah.
Like throughout the whole movie, it's kind of like, the pace never really picks up. There's no scenes where it's like, ooh, the dialogue's so fast now, or I feel like there's tension. But yeah, you're right. The especially the dead brothers, it feels like they got put into all these prosthetics and they were told, don't move your prosthetics.
I feel like they were all filmed independently on a green screen.
Oh, you think they were cut together?
Yeah. Because there are even moments where, I understand that they have to be silent at some times. What I found really distracting, where I'm like, why isn't there jokes here? Because it's so funny, and they set it up well a couple of times, but then there are a few moments, even especially at the end, like Mark Strong is there now because he's a ghost, and they see that Charlie Cox's character, Tristan, who is like, oh, the gem turned, I'm the king now. And Mark Strong and all the brothers look at each other like, oh, I guess that's what's up. And they all kind of nod. And it's, I'm going to say 10 seconds of dead air as none of them make quite direct eye contact as they all nod, because they were all clearly given the direction. You are all looking at one another, realizing what has happened and seeing what has happened. So kind of look at your brothers and nod, and then look kind of forward and nod, and then back to your brothers and nod. And that's what they all do, and it's consistent, but no one makes direct eye contact, and there's no other dialogue happening, so it's just dead, awkward silence where one of them could be like, oh man, he's the guy.
We're going to heaven.
Or all of them simultaneously in a cacophony being like, oh, of course he's the guy. Oh my, he even looks like that. Like they could be yelling funny stuff, but I really don't think any of them filmed together.
No, I get what you're saying now that you say it. Yeah, it would make sense. Or just like the ones who aren't as famous, just like kind of were told, just like be quiet, let Rupert Everett and Mark Strong do most of it.
Yeah.
And then they weren't there a lot of the time or something. Because yeah, one scene is just them sleeping in a caravan. And it's like, you put them in all this makeup just to like lay down and have a nap? Like the makeup must take forever. Rupert Everett's face is gone.
And then had a visual effects department composite them into the scene in like a semi-transparent thing, which isn't the most difficult visual effect in the world, but it's not nothing.
It's 2007 and it's Matthew Vaughn's first movie. Give him a break.
It's not nothing.
It's not nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so stuff like that where I'm just like, it feels like there's a lot of missed opportunity in this movie.
There is a lot of missed opportunities. And like there's also just like not a lot of talking sometimes. Like I actually think the finale is not bad, but also it's really low on dialogue for a finale that's so full of characters. Like the mom's there and Mark Strong's there and the witches are there and Tristan and the Star are there. It's like, oh wow, there should be lines everywhere. People should be going into corners and making strategies and saying plot points, and instead the brothers are quiet. The fight scenes are silent.
Yeah.
And it's very weird.
Yeah, there's no quippiness. There's no...
It's again what you said, like, were they even all there on the same day?
Yeah. And I think it's just a combination of, like, they weren't, and maybe this was, a bigger production than Matthew Vaughn was ready for, and not the right amount of prep time, and it's not, a small, intimate thing like an indie movie, and it's just... It's bigger, it's moving faster, but with more things to do in the production time. So it's just tough, and you end up with a lot of dead air, I guess.
I guess you do. Now, I will say, for a positive, that, like, Mark Strong dead body fight.
Holy shit, it's so good.
Holy shit, it's so good.
It's so fucking good.
What was it doing in here?
Unbelievably good.
Like Vincent D'Onofrio Men in Black kind of body work happening.
The double doing it, this... whoever is doubling Mark Strong.
And sometimes Mark Strong was doing it.
And
a
a moment or
bit.
two of Mark Strong. And then, like, also whatever rigging they had them in to be like, it straight up looked like a human being fighting a Muppet who was made of flesh. Like, the puppeteer work is bananas. It is mind-blowing.
When his whole body would be completely limp but standing upright, and then his wrist would just do a ton of sword blocks, but it wasn't CG because the CG in this movie is not very good. And so, like, you can see when it's CG'd in this film. Not like terrible, but you know, it's not great. None of that was CG'd. That was all actual double work, and it was so cool.
Yes.
What a way to end the movie.
Yep.
Like, the only really cool action scene. But, like, phenomenal cool. I've never seen anything like that.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Yeah, the physicality, the prop work, the rigging, how they filmed it, how they removed the rigging, I guess, from the visual effect with the visual effects department. It just looks phenomenal, and it's unique. It's something I've never seen. Michelle Pfeiffer using like a voodoo doll to control Mark Strong and puppeteer him into a fight against Charlie Cox's character. I'm like, this is so original and fresh. And like Charlie Cox is looking like confused, but playing along with it. It's cool as hell.
It's cool. It's one of the only times where even though like the brothers aren't talking, it's funny. Like Mark Strong is selling it as a ghost, just being like, what my body? I'm not in there. Like you can see so much in his like responses.
And kudos to him. He does sell it, like you say, with mime work, but it's another one where it's like, why aren't you saying something to your brothers?
Why wouldn't he be talking about how someone's controlling his body and he thinks that's disrespectful?
And especially when they've established that the ghosts can talk and we can hear them.
We can hear them.
But it's just Mark Strong shrugging with like a look on his face that says, I'm not doing it, when he could just say I'm not doing it. And they could, anyway.
Yeah.
But
weird choices.
The fight itself
itself is incredible. Yeah. When I saw how good it was for a second, I was like, oh, this is only going to last like 5 seconds. Like they don't have the budget or the time for something this cool, but it's like a minute-long fight.
And for a movie that has no other fight piece.
No other choreography whatsoever. Like
Henry Cavill pushes Charlie Cox over once when they have sticks. And that's it. Like, there's no fight choreography. And at the last minute, they drop this bombshell on you.
Yeah. Weird. Wild choices.
Yeah. I will say that if you're a listener, if you haven't watched or rewatched this movie, look up that fight sequence on YouTube or whatever.
That's worth looking up.
That is worth every second of it.
Yeah, that's not a whatever.
Yeah.
No, that fight scene was like, oh shit, something new and cool. Yeah, that was another thing where you're like, oh, hints of the Matthew Vaughn to come.
Yeah.
Because like, how good is Matthew Vaughn eventually at like huge, cool fight scenes, like the church fight in the first Kingsman movie, and like, like he can do a cool choreographed fight scene
and a fight scene with a modifier. Whether it's
something's
like
going on,
whether it's the speed ramping that he does in Kingsman or the elevated one takes with the hidden like digital cuts as things go behind people, whether it's blade legs or a digital effect like that, like these kind of elevated what if an action scene plus X. And this is a really great first example of that, to be like, what if an action scene plus X. And I, on another completely tonally different note, but another positive that I will say that took too long for me to realize it's great in this movie. I sincerely think that Charlie Cox and Claire Danes have true chemistry, and I bought into it so hard by the end of this movie, which makes me really frustrated that Claire Danes' character does not show up until like the 30-minute mark. And then also they don't really get to talk that much until the 1 hour mark. But the last hour of this movie, when they have extended dialogue and scenes together, I'm like, you two actually play off each other pretty well. I actually kind of buy in. I think you two are cute. I like it. You don't like it? You're giving me a face like you don't like it.
I want to like it. I'm sorry. I love Charlie Cox, and I actually quite like Claire Danes. The Baz Luhrmann version of Romeo and Juliet is one of my like top 10 favorite movies. I think she's phenomenal in it. So I like her chemistry usually. I didn't feel it here. I think maybe because like so much of their love story was like the montage on the ship, and I'm like, what do you like each other than you just got stuck on a ship together? Like, what is there? And their combativeness is nice. It's very Han Leia of that, like, that's what we like about each other, that we can challenge each other. But I also think I just got thrown really early off this, like, romance in any way when Charlie Cox is just like, well, yeah, I'm going to kidnap you. I'm going to hold you against your will and give you to a woman. And I was kind of off board from that point on.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, they're both so charming and cute. And if that hadn't happened, if there'd been no kidnapping, I actually think I might have been like, oh, those cute, adorable kids.
In his defense, he was expecting a rock.
Yeah, and when he found a woman,
who is a rock.
Only if she leaves the wall.
I am going to say
she's a rock in a different state.
That man, you still need to grant him 24 hours to recalibrate his worldview of sentience and morality. I will not agree to that. If you were like, Andrew, if you love me, I need you to go to the town over and get me this loaf of bread. And I went there, and the loaf of bread was a human woman who was like, no, I am a loaf of bread. A magical loaf of bread who talks and thinks. I'd be like, I don't know what to do with this. But I am supposed to take you back to her, and I'm gonna deal with my new understanding of my place in the universe later. Your loaf of bread? Like, his entire worldview makes no sense anymore.
I mean, he does kind of roll with the punches pretty well. I just don't think if you're expecting a rock, why did you bring a magic kidnapping rope? Why are you so eager to use your magic kidnapping rope if you thought you were getting a rock? He's like 5 seconds in. He's like, oh, a human woman. Magic kidnapping rope. He didn't hesitate.
He panicked. He panicked. He panicked.
Okay, he panicked. And then a full day later, he chose to tie her to a tree and leave her there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't care. She had to be rescued by a unicorn.
Yeah. Yeah. And I am not saying he did the right thing. I am saying that he freaked out a bit and maybe didn't think it through.
He didn't think it through. I mean, I actually maybe could forgive the first 5 seconds. The tying to the tree a day later, it's like you've had a day to consider.
Yeah.
All of this.
He did come back with bread and water.
Oh, thanks, my kidnapper. I've been fed and watered. Yeah, I'm not Stockholm Syndrome in this guy.
All right.
I refuse.
All right.
You can do better, Yvain.
There's weird shit going on. I will say that much.
There is weird shit going on.
There's weird shit going on.
I will say, yeah, once they like really cute Charlie Cox up, like with the better hair and the really nice outfit, you're like, oh, I can see why they would be like very cute together. And
he does visually do a great job of going rags to riches.
He cleans up. They do a really good, like
Terrific.
Usually a rags to riches is you look the exact same in a new jacket. And they really did a good job of like, no, he was like pretty scrappy. Like he had bad bangs and they really like cleaned him up nice.
And I still think he looked fine cute before, but then he went to like, oh, hello. Like a little, hey.
Oh, yeah. A little like, a second double take.
Huh, hey. But I bought their chemistry. I'm sorry you didn't. I bought into their chemistry.
For you. Yeah.
But I didn't buy into it, or I didn't even begin to buy into it until the 1 hour mark of this movie, which I will say is a failure. That for a movie where one of its core conceits is the romance story, to not even begin a romance tale for me until the 1 hour mark, to not even introduce the romantic lead until the almost 30-minute mark, that is something where I'm just like, we are blowing screen time here and just wasting it.
We really are, especially because like, a movie where like you start with a different love interest than you end up with can work fine. But like he spends so much time with Victoria.
Yes.
That I was like, oh, is this the love interest? Like I hadn't seen this movie before. So I was like, are you actually going to end up with her? Like we've spent a lot of time with this woman.
And flat out, Victoria could not exist as far as the telling of this movie goes. Like we could just start with the character of Tristan being like, there's a woman back in town, Victoria. I love her so much I told her I'd bring her a shooting star. Done. I do not need 20 minutes with Blue Sky Sienna Miller. I can't remember her. It didn't happen. And then even like a lot of the wasted opening screen time of this movie where it's like, it's in the past and his dad, and I'm like, okay, it's a nice little micro love story, but I don't know if we have the time to tell this. And even it opening with like his dad wrote a letter to an astronomer.
What was that all about?
I have not read the book that this is based on. I just immediately got the vibes that I'm like, I'm willing to bet that this was probably pretty beautiful, flowery, purple prose when in written form. To be like, this is a romantic poem that a man wrote an astronomer to be like, is there a different world that exists behind the walls that is mine? And to be like, no, that's a metaphor, kid. Go back to work. Or whatever the fuck the astronomer writes back. I'm willing to bet there was something beautiful to that. In a movie, that is just completely dead air screen time.
Yeah, especially when you don't even bookend it that way. Like, we don't go back to the astronomer or the astronomy place. Like, they're not even like cut to at any point of like, hey, where'd that star go? I was just looking at a star and it's gone. Like,
it's nothing.
Give me some kind of interstitial with the astronomers.
Yeah, this is the core conceit that I said at the beginning, is that this movie needs more and has too much. You either needed more of that or to get rid of it. It's too much of that. It's the worst amount of several things, I would say.
I think this is a good segue into Robert De Niro's character. I'm scared to talk about it a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. Is this cool?
No.
What, for 2007, was it cool?
I'm gonna say even for 2007, it was mid.
Mid for 2007. I felt that way as well. Also, little Matthew Vaughn, early Matthew Vaughn.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many like little touches of like the man you will become.
Yeah, because I think one of the biggest problems with the Robert De Niro thing is that it feels like it's like this movie got made partially because Matthew Vaughn somehow convinced Robert De Niro to be attached to this script. And then why I think this doesn't work, even as a straight character playing a gay-coded character. First of all, it should be just an openly gay character. It's like there's a good version of what you're doing here, and it's Our Flag Means Death. But,
we've had it since this movie came out.
Since this movie came out. This
is
just the problematic, closeted, and played by straight people version of a much better story that exists today. But, it's 2007, but I think that what makes this upsetting is that it feels like the joke is that Robert De Niro's playing a gay man.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have the wherewithal of a straight actor who's like, I can play anything. It feels like a straight actor and a straight director being like, it's funny because he's gay.
Get it? He's a pirate and he's gay.
And it's like, this isn't, I don't like this.
No, I don't like this. And some parts of it are like nice, but it's not the parts, but it's the parts where he's like lying about not being like ruthless. Or he's like, I will teach you like piano and fencing. And I'm like, these parts are nice. And all the parts where you like put on makeup and wear dresses feel like you're mocking the gay community.
Absolutely.
and not expressing joy with them.
It doesn't celebrate drag, it shames drag.
Yeah. And they kind of try to make this like the crew accepts you at the end, but like they didn't make that enough of a thing. Like it kind of felt like more like the crew will tolerate this as long as you keep hiding it. It wasn't like the crew all put on dresses and we're like, we love this and we support you. It wasn't Our Flag Means Death.
It was never celebratory.
It was never celebratory. It was a joke.
Whether it's Vaughn or the producers behind it or whatever, it never had the courage to be celebratory. It could have. And when we watch a movie that 2007 wasn't that long ago, but when we watch any movie from the past, like we do usually ask ourselves the question of like, was this progressive or regressive in the moment that this was made? How do we look at it from today's lens? And from today's lens, it's like this should be played by actors. If this was made today, it's like this should be played by actors who are member of the LGBTQ plus community, and there should be representation involved here. In 2007, that was less common, but it would have been nice. But there's still a tonality to the writing that is the difference between exploitation and celebration, and this feels exploitative and making fun of a community, which is not cool.
No, it's not cool because I haven't read the book this is based on, but if this character does exist, as I assume he does, I bet there is a real joy mixed with a real tragedy to this character in the actual writing. And there's no tragedy here.
I have enough faith in Gaiman that I would say that is,
Yeah, and I bet the book portrayal, because Robert De Niro doesn't play a book character. You don't read the book and you're like, Robert De Niro. I bet the book portrayal is lovely, but
I believe that.
This is not a full of adoration or exploration of a gay character in any way, or a gay coded character, or whatever they're going for.
Yeah, the joke is, hey, isn't this not the type of character you expect Robert De Niro to play? And that's actually just not a joke.
It's not a joke. I mean, he doesn't show up until an hour into the movie, and he finally showed up, and I was like, oh, finally, Robert De Niro's here. And then almost immediately I was like, oh, you can go.
You can get out of here.
No, I'm glad you weren't in the whole thing.
and also, that whole second act on the airship is just kind of dead air. Like, you get a lot of fun scenes of, like, the montage of Tristan and Stardust. I always forget her name. Yvain. You get this nice montage of them building a relationship, and I do buy into that. But for the most part, it really feels like it's just kind of spinning its wheels and killing time, where it's just like, and now we're going to London. It's like we were always going to London, but now we're doing it in the air, and as slowly.
More slowly. It takes them days, possibly weeks, and then we find out they've gone like 30 miles.
Yeah.
Because they start out and they say we're 100 miles away from the wall. And then they get dropped off, they walk for a day, and they find a marker that's like 60 miles away from the wall. It's like, what were you doing up there?
Ultra marathoners can run this in a day. And I'm not saying that that's what these characters are. And going over difficult terrain makes short distances very difficult. But they're in the sky. It's literally as the crow flies. It is the shortest and most direct measurement of distance. That airship would have to be moving slower than a human walking.
Yeah, my only thought is they literally have no way of like sailing it, and it just like loops a lot. They're like, oh no, we looped again.
It goes wherever it wants to go.
Maybe it'll go to the wall and maybe it won't. And that would actually be funny if that was like kind of the idea. But that's not the idea at all. They're clearly showing that they can fly it and that it's taken several days to weeks and they've only made it 30 miles.
An embarrassing distance.
Embarrassing is the word.
Yeah.
I think you should have a bad reputation as a captain for this alone, Captain Shakespeare.
Yeah. Yep.
Let alone the fact that you don't kill anyone.
If I can outrun horses, unicorns, magic airships, and I can outrun you, this is what is happening with this type of distance travel. I don't even understand what's going on.
It's a magical world, but this I won't accept because that's the reverse of what magic does. Magic must make things easier.
And for the dead air stuff, I would say that this whole second act is also where time just kind of it stands still in a lot of regards, as we just mentioned, of like how quickly they move. It feels like time stands still. But also, this is where it feels like there's a lot of intercut dead air as well. Like, this movie has a lot of storylines going on. There's the love story between our two romantic leads, obviously. And then these other characters are chasing the star. They're chasing Yvain. And that's Michelle Pfeiffer's witch character, and that is Mark Strong's heir to the throne, or prince, heir to the throne.
And all the other princes.
And all the other princes. But then we have to like kill them off, and I'm like, this is kind of dead air and wasted time. And also during the second act, there's even stuff like Mark Strong finds his brother in a bathtub for the inn that doesn't exist. Does his brother have the stone? No, it doesn't. I'm going to have a henchman check the bathtub. They don't have it there, but a witch did this. And now I would also like the witch. And it's like, but he's already going after the stone. So like we add this then second plot line of like, and now he's also going to try to get he was trying to get the stone. Now he's also trying to get the star. It's like, but they're in the same place.
Yeah, why didn't he know stars were... He knew it was a star.
And even so, who gives a shit? This was now 10 minutes of the movie for him to decide that he's going to go to the same place for the same reason. So this is wasted time. And then it also cuts to to Michelle Pfeiffer's witch character with her sisters, who are like, oh my goodness. And like, they're like, did you know that someone else is trying to get the star? The prince is, and they find out about the prince, but they don't attempt to intercept him. And it has no effect or consequence on the plot. So there's these series of scenes where a bunch of characters find out new information that don't affect them and do not alter how they do anything or where they go or how they do it. It's nothing.
Yeah, it's nothing. And those same scenes will be like intercut with like a lot of horseback riding. That is just absolute dead air. It's like Mark Strong is riding his horse really fast, and Michelle Pfeiffer is riding her horse really fast, and Tristan is riding his horse really fast, and Tristan's mom is stolen a carriage, and she's running it really fast. And it's like, wow, 5 scenes in a row of horses and no dialogue. Could we maybe pick up the pace a little bit?
And even stuff like the Ricky Gervais character is a merchant, so we stop to sell lightning to Ricky Gervais, for then Michelle Pfeiffer to show up and be like, hey, did you buy lightning from someone I'm looking for? And he's like, yeah. And that's a whole scene for some reason.
That's a whole scene. They have to run into like the witch who stole the mom in that same scene.
And then Mark Strong has to have a scene with Ricky Gervais where he's like, I'm following someone. Do I keep going? You chicken squawked at me. I guess I'll keep going as if this scene didn't happen. So why did we have it?
Yeah. He killed him and got no information. Like, Mark Strong several times stops places and doesn't get any information. He doesn't get any information from Mark Strong. He stops and finds, like, the witch body outline, but he has no information to tell him to keep following the way he's going.
Yeah.
He's just kind of winging it.
Yeah.
For most of it.
So yeah, a lot of just killing time scenes there in this whole middle section.
Yeah.
None of it has any effect on anyone.
Yeah, and if it picked up the pace, it might be fun and lovely.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's I think my last note that I want to talk about, real short, as short as the wall itself. I hate how short the wall is.
Yeah.
This whole thing about like we have to guard it and we can't let people over it, and it's a huge deal if you go across it, and there's only this one part where you can go in, and I'm like, it's 4 feet tall. You can cross at any point. Like, it's not even like a magic point.
No, it's just a point where it's a little bit shorter than other points.
A little bit shorter, but the rest of it is also short.
Yeah, and that one guard, is he magic? I would like to ask you that as well.
Well, I don't know, because like Tristan's dad got in, literally no problem, and then Tristan couldn't get in.
Yeah.
But that was 18 years later. So I'm like, he's even older now. He's like 97, they said. So why at 80 couldn't he stop Tristan's dad?
I don't know.
I was really confused. And also, he was quitting and going home, and he was going back to the non-magic side. So I assume he's
just a
non-magic.
dude,
I think he's just a dude.
And I guess only one person has ever given him trouble this whole time. No one really cares about this wall.
Even though it's really easy to cross back and forth. Oh, I guess Victoria and Henry Cavill go. Because they go to Tristan's coronation.
Yeah, at some point Tristan's like, just walk past the wall a little. It's super easy.
Yeah, you're big.
Yeah.
Henry Cavill, you can make
step over it.
You can just give Victoria a little boost at any point of the wall.
Absolutely.
Come to my coronation. Please.
Come on over. Yeah, that wall sucked. I agree with you
The
on
wall sucked.
that.
That's my final note. The wall sucked.
If I was reading the book, I would have pictured such a fucking better wall.
I was picturing, and I mean, the wall was practical, so I guess I get why
Maybe that was
pretty
the best,
small.
yeah.
That's the best you can do on a practical wall. But yeah, I'm definitely picturing like a massive fucking wall.
I'm picturing like something between like the Berlin Wall and Attack on Titan. Like,
that's a good one.
I'm going fucking huge.
I was thinking Game of Thrones wall.
Oh yeah,
the one in the north.
Yeah, that's a good wall.
You're not jumping over that. You do need an entry point for that.
And
one.
you know what? Size-wise, I might say that is the in between the Berlin Wall and Attack on Titan. I don't know. I'm sure someone out there has done the math of what the size of the wall at Game of Thrones would be.
Bigger than the Attack on Titan.
Really?
I might not remember Attack on Titan all that well.
They were huge, but maybe, yeah.
I feel like the Titans weren't as big as the wall. A human can cut the neck of the Titan.
Yeah. Tough one. All right.
Anyway.
That's up for debate. Someone
send us some measurements.
Someone who is good at math. Pythagoras, if you're listening to this bad boy.
Shout out to Pythagoras.
What's up, my boy Pythagoras? quick shout out to you. Then let us know, hit us up, let us know which wall is bigger. Well, let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change. So now that we've discussed everything we've discussed, what would you change about this? If you could change anything, before we do ask the final question, we will remind you, as we do every week, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Addict, or wherever you might get your podcasts.
Wherever you're listening to this, you can probably leave us a 5-star review, and you should, and we'd love it if you did.
Huzzah!
Huzzah! This is all the information you need. Oh, I like them. 5 stars, and maybe write a little something about how much you like it. That'd be nice.
Let us know.
Hang on a minute, Pythagoras.
Check it out. There's
leave some equations.
Lots of places where you can leave a rating and a review. It sincerely helps us and it warms our hearts. And as well, anyone who's using Google Podcasts, they're shutting that down this year, so switch over to another platform and leave a rating and review there. If you use Google Podcasts, Google is shutting that service down and later is supposed to replace it with YouTube Podcasts. Whatever that means, we have...
Our podcast is available on YouTube.
It is. You can just go to our YouTube channel, Sketch from Superheroes on YouTube, or you can find the link on our website. But leave a rating and review wherever you can. And as well, if you want to get bonus episodes of this podcast, you can become a patron over on Patreon.
You,
sir. You, madam.
I don't even know what it is.
You.
Tell me what it is. I think I might know. Patreon is a way to support independent creators with a little donation every single month. At the $1 level, you get our webcomic text from Superheroes a few days early. The days depend on when I actually Photoshop them. At the $3 level, you get this podcast early and ad-free. 2 awesome things about it. No ads.
Yeah.
And earlier than other people.
And it's earlier than other people.
It's double good.
It's double good. And then at the $10 hero level, you also get a bonus episode of this podcast every single month. Last week on the public episode, we talked about Escape from New York. And then over on the Patreon, it's available. It's up right now. We talked about Escape from L.A. Pliskin, baby, which is a thing now that we've been yelling when we throw stuff. It's Pliskin, baby. It's Escape from LA. It's over on the Patreon. And when you sign up at the $10 hero level, you get immediate access to the complete back catalog of all of our Patreon exclusive episodes we've done in the past. So check out all of the options. You can sign up, you can cancel or change your subscription level on any month if your finances change. Or if your finances feel rock frickin' solid, you can sign up for a year and you get 1 month free as well. Check out all the options over at patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. That is patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. And now, let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? Diana, what would you change?
Kind of a couple just little nitpicky changes. I'm going to say choose a tone, because it kind of is all over the place. That tone to me would be, I think, the brothers. I actually think this is the most original and fun part of it, but also it doesn't match with the love story part that's going on. But I liked the brothers. I think this is funny and original. I like the idea of slowly killing off all your brothers, but they're all fully aware of it. There's no political intrigue. I think this is really fun. I like this zaniness and ridiculousness of that tone. I think that should be the whole thing. Pick up the pace, cut the dead air, cut so many horse ridings, cut kind of every scene where people learn information they don't use that you just went over. Like Mark Strong doesn't need to talk to a witch and then use none of that information. We can just not have that scene with Mark Strong. My biggest change is going to be no Victoria, and not just because I can't remember Sienna Miller's face. If you need Charlie Cox to go into the magic world, he's looking for his mom. We don't need 20 minutes with a different love interest who will not pay off in any way. So I'm going to say he actually goes there looking for his mom, not looking for the star or anything to find Victoria. I don't know, they'll have some kind of reason like stars can lead you to the people you love, and he thinks the star can lead him to his mom or something.
Love it.
Love that. So
stars will guide the way, or some type of
like that.
A navigational poem.
Of course, yeah, a guiding light, like a star does. So he just happens to go in with the candle at like he does now at the same time that the star falls. So we just cut Victoria entirely, and we save 20 minutes of this movie. And then we get to Claire Danes sooner. They can have more scenes together. I'm going to say he probably doesn't kidnap her. Would love that. I would love if there was less kidnapping. I just would really like that. He's kind of even mean. He makes her walk fast when her legs hurt. I don't care for it. So that's all gone. He's just kind of nicer about it. But yeah, I'm mostly going to cut Victoria as my biggest change.
I love that.
Thank you. Andrew, what would you change?
I love that. I'm on board for all of this. The movie needs to have less and be a little tighter. Not even just from a runtime perspective, which I know is a thing we often complain about, but it's more from a focus perspective.
Too many characters, too much stuff going on.
It's very book and not enough movie. So I agree with all of this. I do think, just as a side note, this isn't my change, but I think that they could have made it more funny and charming and less upsetting if she wasn't walking good, not because she had hurt her leg, but because she had never walked before, because she's a star.
Yeah, she don't know how.
If it was just her awkwardly being like, "This sucks," that's funny. Then it's him being like, "Oh my God, come on," and her being like, what happens after the left one? And him being like, the right foot. Then it's the left again. Like that level of incredulity to be like, then it's him being frustrated with her, but he's not shitty. It's funny.
It's funny. And then maybe he could like carry her, which is a kind of kidnapping that's more acceptable.
Yeah.
Because you're doing labor.
There's quick
when
little...
there's labor involved?
Yeah.
It's
There's
more
quick ways to
acceptable.
change this that make it more charming and less threatening.
Yeah.
My big change is recasting Robert De Niro. This should be played by Nathan Lane.
I was thinking Nathan Lane. Yes,
It's so
he
clearly
would've
meant to be
loved it.
played by Nathan Lane. It's big, it's bawdy, it's Broadway. It's someone who can kind of switch tonalities really quickly, with which Nathan Lane can do. Nathan Lane can go from like a stone cold, like just nothing but ice in his veins, terrible person to like, okay, are we having fun? He can switch that gear at 1,000 miles per hour.
I completely agree. He is perfect casting for this role if he had been cast in this role. Yes.
Yeah. And he would do it in a way that would be welcoming and like a wink and a nudge within the community and not mocking of the community as well.
Yeah, because there's definitely like, there was no representatives behind the camera either. There wasn't anyone who was like, no, that's fine. Yeah, that's what we like that.
Yeah.
We like that.
No one said they liked that. No one
from
said
the
they liked
LGBTQ
that.
community said that was good.
Yeah, so that's my big change. Robert De Niro's character, Captain Shakespeare, should be played by Nathan Lane.
That's such good change, not just because it's actually inclusive and it matches, but also like his energy is so much bigger than Robert De Niro.
It would add
really pick
so
up the
much
pace.
more pep.
Oh, the pep would be huge.
Because not only is De Niro someone who it's just like, this casting is not appropriate, he can't play it.
No.
And I'm not saying De Niro's a bad actor. I'm saying De Niro does not have this in his repertoire. De Niro is a legendary, phenomenal actor who has a lot of arrows in his quiver. Some of them are explosive arrows that are downright Oscar-winning bazookas. And this is a dud nerf. He just does not have this.
No, he didn't nail it.
He didn't nail it. He didn't nail it. He doesn't have this. He never did. That's why other actors get cast for these roles and not Robert De Niro.
Great changes.
Thanks. You too.
Love it. We did it.
Love it. We did it. That is going to be it for this week for Stardust. Next week, we will be back with more Matthew Vaughn. What kind of Matthew Vaughn are we going to get? I don't know.
Are we going to get Kingsman 1 or are we going to get the Kingsman?
Kingsman. Are we going to get a somewhat reined in by a studio sensible person, or are we going to get a problematic, offensive mismatch of ideas? You just don't know.
Yeah. Are you going to
with
get
a Matthew Vaughn
Are you going to get an
project.
X-Men First Class? Or are you going to get a Kick-Ass? What's going to happen, baby?
Are you going to get an impression of a Guy Ritchie movie? You don't know with Matthew Vaughn.
Oh, Argyle does kind of.
It does have. It has strong. It has strong.
tones.
Matthew Vaughn might be going back to layer cake Guy Ritchie impression era, back on his bullshit. I don't know.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. That'll be next week. In the meantime, if you want to get a hold of us, you can find me on Instagram, Threads, or Blue Sky. I'm at Ivimey, Ivimey.
You can find me at Pics of Diana on on Threads and on Instagram, and Words of Diana on Tumblr.
Absolutely. And you can find all of the podcasts that we offer and all the cool stuff that we do over at FromSuperheroes.com. And we'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye.